Sports are often called the universal language because they're such a big part of human culture. We build huge stadiums, wear our team's colors like war paint, and let our moods change with every ball thrown or whistle blown. But a lot of people just don't get it. They stand on the sidelines, not because they're against sports, but because they honestly don't feel anything for them. They don't get excited by a last-minute win, and they see a stadium as nothing more than a traffic problem. Understanding why these non-fans exist isn't just about figuring out a lack of interest. It's about seeing how different brains handle feelings like empathy, group loyalty, and fun. To figure out why some people don't like sports, we first need to look at what attracts everyone else: mirror neurons. Brain science suggests that sports fans owe a lot to these special brain cells. They fire both when we do something and when we watch someone else do it. So, when a fan watches a player kick a soccer ball, their brain is kind of kicking it too. They feel the excitement and the rush of a goal as if it were their own. For those not obsessed, this feeling is much weaker. Their brain sees the game as just outside information, strangers moving on a field, not something they experience themselves. Without this brain connection, watching sports feels like watching a stranger do their taxes. It's an activity, but it's not a real experience. This difference also shows up in how we form social groups. Humans are naturally tribal. In the old days, being part of a group helped us survive. Sports give us a safe way to be tribal, letting people belong to a group with a shared past and a common enemy. But many non-fans think differently. They care more about connecting based on logic than on random things. A non-fan might look at a pro team and see players coming and going, a rich owner they've never met, and a brand connected to a city they might not even live in. To them, the whole us against them idea seems made up. They're not antisocial, they just find community through shared ideas, creative work, or beliefs, rather than where a sports team happens to be. Then there's the difference between stories and stats. Humans love stories, and sports fans see a season as a big adventure. The underdog's rise, the veteran's last try, or breaking a long-standing curse. But for the non-fan, sports feel like a story that never actually finishes or changes. It's a repeat loop where the clock always hits zero, only for everything to start over next year. While a fan sees a high-stakes drama with an unknown ending, the non-fan sees a repeating cycle of physical stuff. These people often want stories with clear endings or deep emotional meaning. They'd rather spend 60 hours on a video game or a complex novel than deal with the endless, circular nature of a sports schedule. We also can't forget about how different people handle sensory input and their personalities. Sports culture is loud, flashy, and often aggressive. For those who are more introverted or sensitive to sensory input, the sports environment can be overwhelming. While a fan feels pumped up by the crowd's roar and commentators' shouts, a non-fan might feel tired or worried. This is the difference between people who like a lot of excitement, sensation seekers, and those who prefer calm, focused settings, low arousal preference. For the latter, the emotional loudness of sports culture is just too much noise for too little payoff. There's also the idea of doing things yourself. Interestingly, many people who find regular sports boring are really into strategy games or hobbies like woodworking, coding, or playing an instrument. For a certain type of person, often called the doer, just watching offers no reward. They'd rather spend 3 hours trying to learn a guitar riff than watching a pro player master a move. To them, not being directly involved in the action of fandom makes the time feel wasted. They don't want to watch the hero. They want to be the hero in their own small story. Finally, the way non-fans see things is often shaped by how sports fandom plays out socially. In many cultures, sports are the usual topic for small talk. When someone can't join in, they can feel left out. Over time, this lack of interest can turn into a defensive attitude. If you've spent your life feeling excluded because you don't know who got traded in the off-season, you might get a quiet dislike for sports. What started as simple disinterest becomes a key part of their identity. the person who doesn't do sports. In the end, not being obsessed with sports isn't a problem or a sign of not being competitive. It just shows how many different ways human brains work. The world needs fans, the people who create the shared excitement that builds stadiums and makes cultural moments. But the world also needs non-fans, the people who stand outside the stadium, looking at the stars, the data, or the art, finding meaning in things that don't need a scoreboard to be understood. Both groups are simply looking for a way to feel connected to something bigger than themselves. They're just looking in different places.